So now we'd like to kick off the event by introducing you to Eric White, Executive Director of the Boston Society for Architecture. Before we do that, I'd just like to say that under Eric's leadership, the BSA has been an incredible resource and support during this very challenging year, including support for firms and designers related to the pandemic and to the many diversity, equity, and inclusion awareness programs and initiatives. So please welcome Eric White.
Elise, thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm coming to you actually from the BSA exhibition Women in Design Award of Excellence 20th anniversary that you'll be hearing more about very shortly. I want you to stop and imagine the possibilities. The possibility of a profession where Jada Carnes, a teenager from Dorchester, has the opportunity to become the next Anne Beha. The possibility where Andrea Love can lead the fight against climate change through advocacy and workshops like Embodied Carbon. And the possibility where Rebecca Berry can apply her design talents against the inequities and injustices of our prison system by building partnerships with groups like Families for Justice's Healing. Actually, you don't have to imagine this because these possibilities are happening right now. And while there's still much to do, today we're here to celebrate those of you who turn possibility into reality. Now you can find this possibility in people like Carol Wedge, who sees the potential in young people providing pathways to leadership. Carol is recognized this year for her work with the AIA Kemper Award. You'll also find it in the work of the BSA Global Design Initiative for Refugee Children, whose work in Syria and to Mattapan is providing safe and engaging spaces for children and families, and this year won the AIA National Collaborative Award. And possibilities are truly on display this year with the work of our 2020 BSA President, Natasha Espada. I want to take a moment to acknowledge her leadership through this year's many crises, and also to acknowledge how much I value her friendship. Today, I think we all owe her a debt of gratitude and a standing ovation. Natasha, thank you so much for all that you do. While we're here celebrating individuals, we cannot lose sight of the fact that it is through the collective effort of all of you that change happens. We need architects to construct habitable and vibrant communities. We need architects to create a city and region and world that is environmentally healthy for our children and grandchildren. And we need architects to build a society that is equitable and just, not just for those with money, but those whose voices are often unheard. These are the possibilities that are driving behind Women in Design, and it's also what drives the BSA. And today we're here to celebrate 3 women who embody those possibilities. Cheri Ruane is a visionary landscape architect and a visionary collaborator. Many of you are familiar with her work on Lincoln Park in Somerville or on the PBS Need to Know series. What you may not know is that a few years ago, Cheri was president of the BSLA, the Landscape Architects, and reached out to us to build a collaborative partnership. Since then, we've completed several projects and are currently working together with the Boston Harbor Keepers to reimagine the abandoned industrial shoreline in East Boston along Chelsea Creek. Lynne Deninger is a personification of excellence, whose leadership is elevating canon design. I'm sure most of you know Lynne's work in higher education that is nationally recognized. What you may not know about Lynne is that she's also the chair of the BSA Ethics Committee. This year, they undertook the daunting task of reviewing the AIA Code of Ethics through the lens of equity and justice, and are submitting critical recommendations to AIA for changes. This work is really unheralded, but it is reshaping how the profession approaches everything from fair pay to fair practices. And lastly, Kathryn Crockett is a brilliant architect who has made such a remarkable imprint revitalizing Worcester and Central Mass. Now, I've known Katie for a long time. How long, you may ask? Well, let's just say we go back to the 1830s. For those of you who think architectural registration process is difficult today, imagine taking your AREs after milking a cow and wearing a bonnet. Now, how do I know Katie? Well, that handsome creature, well, actually the handsome creatures are named Tad and Tim, but the guy standing next to the handsome creatures, that would be me. Katie and I worked together at Sturbridge Village many years ago. And just to confirm, yes, that is my hair. And yes, I blame all you members for the fact that I'm bald now. But enough about me. I really want to say about Katie is that in addition to being a brilliant architect, she's also a brilliant and remarkable human being. My congratulations go out to all three of you. You each exemplify the passion, energy, skill, and vision that we hold so dear. And to paraphrase Emily Dickinson, you dwell in possibility. And it is in that dwelling that you inspire us all. Thank you, and I'll turn it back to Yanel and Felice.
Thank you, Eric, so much. And I am just amazed. Those photos are just fabulous. Wow, what a great surprise. Thank you, Eric, and thank you so much for all that you do. So now I would like to tell you a bit about this prestigious award. The Women in Design Award of Excellence was started in 2000 by Sally Levine as part of the first Women in Design Network Conference at Build Boston, which was started by Gretchen Van Grossman. The criteria for the award remain essentially the same today. They are a person who works or who has worked in the New England region, who is ethical, confident, and exemplifies exceptional excellence, and who brings multiple experiences to work in the design of the built environment. A person whose process celebrates the long and winding road, who shares responsibilities and information and cares for others' well-being, and who invites participation and encourages participation. A person whose product demonstrates exceptional excellence and reflects process, whose content of design and built work and non-design and non-built work reflect formal design issues and programmatic experience in equal measure. And a person whose success has been achieved well and then used well, who affects change and whose position and success is part of an evolving career.
On behalf of the Women in Design Awards Committee, I sincerely want to thank anyone here today who has nominated someone. And I do like to point out that we have set the date for nominations for this coming year. It will be July 24th. With each passing year, our task has become increasingly difficult, and this year proved no exception. The nominations include individuals doing outstanding work across a number of practice areas, including residential design, interior design, institutional clients, architects who have spent their careers at large traditional firms, creating noteworthy portfolios of built work, and those who have their own practices, and even those who are non-designers but are affecting design in New England. And today we are very pleased to recognize the achievements of three outstanding women, Kathryn Crockett, Lynne Deninger, and Cheri Ruane. You can see them in full color to the right.
And so last year, we celebrated our 20th anniversary, and the culmination of this celebration was a fabulous exhibition showcasing the stories of work of 20 years of excellence. And you just got a nice glimpse of that from Eric. I'd now like to invite Kelly Haigh to tell you more about this exhibition. So please welcome Kelly Haigh.
Hello, everyone. So I am one of the co-curators of the Impact exhibition. I'm really grateful to be here today to reflect a little bit of background and just tell you what an extraordinary opportunity it's been to celebrate the collective impact that has been made by the WiD Award of Excellence recipients. The initiative was actually born back in 2018 when I participated in the jury that selected Deneen, Renee, and Uma pictured here. And I was struck not just by the caliber of that year's nomination, but also recognizing that they represented only a single year in nearly 20. And having never really had a female mentor myself, I was thrilled to see so many amazing women were out there making Boston the city we know and love today. So as I walked out of the deliberations, completely mesmerized, I passed Billy Craig and said, "This is amazing, but how can we get all of these women together in a single room?" And without missing a beat, Billy said, "Make an exhibit and they'll show up," which seems simple enough, right? So I teamed up with Charlotte Bouvier and Stephanie Herring to imagine what this exhibit might look like. We started by issuing a single question to the nearly 60 awardees: what is your impact? To be captured in an 18 by 18 by optional 9-inch piece. It was important to us that all awardees were able to define impact for themselves and in a way that spanned their careers and reflected their own spirit and identity. The responses were varied and imaginative, from boards of built work to models, videos, even a quilt and a game board. It was amazing to see the breadth of work that collectively contributed to our built environment. And as the design and production of the awardees' pieces developed, we started to brainstorm other content that could provide context to the work. We developed a large-scale timeline that tracked the award recipients alongside local and national milestones in an effort to show the broader momentum that we've experienced in this industry over the last 20 years. We started to map out some of the work that was reflected in the portfolio so that we could see how the awardees have been shaping our city in real space. And excerpts authored by the awardees highlight the incredible breadth of their values, ranging from environmental stewardship to community connections, design excellence, shaping of cityscapes, tackling gender equity, fostering firm culture, and being catalysts of change. We were also at the encouragement of a former awards committee chair, Ruth Super, encouraged to focus on accessibility. So a friend, Colleen Dunning and EPAM Continuum, donated time and support to audio record descriptions for each piece so that low vision participants could also experience the exhibits. And finally, we developed some interactive and takeaway pieces with the hopes that visitors might leave a piece of their own inspiration and take with them a memento. Our team had grown quite a bit in the year and a half of development, each woman contributing in a unique way to both design and installation of the space. And here it is, fully installed in the Salt Gallery. While its physical access was shortened due to the pandemic, it continues to live virtually on the BSA website, many thanks to Paige McWhorter and her team at the BSA. There you can find all the submissions, the audio recordings, the video, and many beautiful photos of the gallery, which were generously photographed by WiD member Elisif. And finally, the moment we'd all been working toward, the gathering of 20 years of awardees into a single space. On March 5th, just 1 week before our whole world seemed to shut down, we had our opening reception. We were so thrilled at the turnout and to be able to hear reflections by the awardees on their incredible collective impact. And while I can't speak from the perspective of the awardees, I can say from my own perspective, the night was spectacular. Not only because we were all coming together to celebrate the incredible impact, but it was an opportunity for the next generation to see all around them the many, many women who paved the way in the world and the profession that we know today. And it challenges us to continue that work and make it even more equitable for future generations. Perhaps this was the last time we've gathered together, unmasked, shoulder to shoulder. And I don't know if any of us quite understood exactly how the world was about to change, but for one last night, we laughed, hugged, celebrated, and it was simply wonderful. As a final piece of our exhibition, Neoscape very generously donated their times and talents in the creation of a video. And this was the first place we started to ask one another, what does the next 20 years look like? My hope is that 20 years from now, we'll be reflecting back and we'll see that we've continued to make strides toward a more equitable profession and a much more diverse and inclusive built environment. So without further ado, our video, along with my sincerest thanks to everyone who was part of the exhibition.
It all began with a dinner that was sponsored at the BSA in 1999. Rebecca Barnes was on the board of the BSA investigating whether there was interest in rekindling a Women in Design committee. And I piped up and said, well, I think what we really need is a design conference for women practitioners.
Gretchen von Grossman at one of our discussions said, let's do a conference. Let's put on a conference.
And I thought, okay, I will do that.
But I had friends who were landscape architects and interior designers and planners. All of the above attended the discussion, and there was just enormous enthusiasm. We had such a good time.
Obviously, you were instrumental in getting this award conceptualized and off the ground.
It's amazing to me also that 20 years later, it's just as important and meaningful and relevant.
If you look back at the people who were recognized, a lot of them were the early women-owned firms here in Boston area who are legendary people in the design community.
Things have changed in practice and in the profession in many ways, and there are a lot more women involved now than there were before.
She made sure it wasn't just architects.
I was always impressed that it was women in design and not women in architecture, but that the built environment was the result of collaboration among all kinds of disciplines.
The mentality had shifted that women didn't need to compete with other women, that women could actually compete with men.
Women have been in the field all along. You know, it's not a new thing.
Very refreshing to see everybody in the room that is leading the industry, that's making a difference in the communities.
I feel that we have a huge responsibility to be stewards of these incredible women who we've been able to recognize. Then also it recognizes how both product and person give back to the world at large and the profession.
You nominate someone that is not a known name could really set that person up in a very different trajectory.
The highlight of the award ceremony really is the stories and the acceptance speeches of each of the winners.
And you get to see that and you're like, wow, the impact that this person has.
And it's always such a moving experience. 3 award winners each year, 3 different versions of what their career was about.
There is an appetite out there to really tell this story at a more national platform.
What I had most strongly hoped for this conference and the awards is to give women the arena to talk about design together. I'd be thrilled if the next 20 years of the conference picked up that baton and really pursued that strongly.
Thank you, Kelly, for all your incredible leadership and to everyone who contributed to make this exhibit a reality. With just tremendous effort, I know. We do now like to tell a bit about the nomination and jury process and some new developments. Every year, as we go through the awards process, we learn new lessons and we really try to improve the process, making it more equitable, fair, and inclusive. Few changes, recent changes implemented in the last few years include, and they are listed here, co-chairs are no longer part of the jury. Felice and I are really facilitating the process. The jury composition, 3 previous awardees are always invited, plus a few more guests. So emphasizing the diversity and a cross-generational overlap to really grow that pipeline by giving access and opportunity to emerging generation of women leaders. Nominations are no longer roll over from year to year. In the past, nominations were kept for 3 years and considered as part of the pool of submissions. But as you might imagine, a lot can happen in 3 years. So to be accurate, to have an accurate representation of the nominee, this practice has been phased out. And a new nomination form now allows jury members to compare apples to apples. As you might imagine, the jury has the wonderful task of reading through the amazing accomplishments of these nominees. And without a nomination form, it has been at times difficult to compare and contrast when they are making deliberations. So we acknowledge this is a lot of information And we will be holding an info session April of 2020, and we will be posting that as well. Here is a glimpse of the form and the 3 sections created to help nominators, nominees, and the jury. This form will be uploaded next year to the BSA Women in Design website. So please think about the wonderful women who have paved the way and nominate someone next year.
And so now we'd like to thank and recognize the jury for this year's Women in Design Awards program. The jury had the very difficult but inspiring task of reviewing this year's esteemed nominees. So please thank Gina Ford, 2019 awardee, Luciana Birdie, 2019 awardee, Emily Grandstaff Rice, 2019 awardee, Vivian Lee, 2015 awardee, Jennifer Hardy, and Elise Young. This year, the jury met by Zoom, and each of the jury members are here today to participate in our presentation. So jurors, thank you so much for your dedication and time. This year, the awardees are missing the experience of the in-person event. So while we hope to make it up to them for next year with an in-person celebration, Janelle and I decided to present the awards in person. So if technology allows us, we'll show you a little glimpse of Share That moment before each awardee speaks. So now, the moment you've been waiting for, let's get on with the main event, where we will hear from each of our awardees, Kathryn Crockett, Lynne Deninger, and Cheri Ruane. First up is Kathryn Crockett. I'd now like to invite jurors Jennifer Hardy and Elise Young to present our next award. We're thrilled that Jennifer and Elise are here to present the award to Kathryn Crockett. Please welcome Jennifer Hardy and Elise Young.
Thank you so much, Felice. I think as part of the continual effort that Felice and Janelle have put into making this award more equitable and more transparent as to the process and the ability for people to feel empowered to submit and believe that they can submit. We thought it might be nice to just have a little moment to hear some of the jury's thoughts, because I mean, as so many people have stated, every single person nominated just brought such a wealth of incredible, inspiration, quite frankly, to me, reading through everything and the depth of thought that went into these submissions was quite stunning. And so how do you choose, And so Kathryn Crockett, Katie, really stood out to us. Her nomination had a clear and consistent thread of values in her practice, a care for others, an investment in social justice and mentorship of employees and stewardship of her practice. Her impact on people and their growth came through in all aspects of her work and practice. And I personally had this funny moment as I was reading through her submission. I was like, wow, I would really like to work for her. She sounds fantastic, and that kind of connection that resonates with you when you're learning about Katie, because I wasn't familiar with her before, which, I mean, that's one of the great things about this award is we all become exposed to other incredible women in our field. And so, thank you for this process, and thank you, Katie, for all you do. And with that, I'll pass it on to Elise to introduce Katie.
Thank you, Jennifer. I am honored to have the pleasure to introduce this award to Kathryn Crockett. With over 30 years of experience in architecture, and as a woman and current president of Lamoureux Pagano Associates, she represents an inspiring example of a true leader, a mentor, and an advocate. Her commitment to not only her career, but also her community and social equity is one of the reasons that we all felt this award was so well deserved. Through design, she is able to connect the built environment to our human purpose. And that's one of the things that I felt really inspiring. She brings out the best in her teams, and she knows the importance of finding your own way and carving your own path. And she is a shining example of that in an industry that is ever changing. As a young woman, an interior architect myself, I am truly inspired and honored to introduce Katie. Let's take a look at the in-person award presentation.
Katie Crockett, we are thrilled to present you with the Boston Society of Architects 2020 Women in Design Award of Excellence. Congratulations.
Thank you. I am so honored.
Here's a little something for you to celebrate with.
Whoa. Thank you. More. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, especially those photos, Eric. What a treat and unexpected. I do want to put out a special thank you to all of the volunteers and staff that have made this event possible, especially Felice and Janelle, who have overcome our challenges of the day to make this really special. It is truly appreciated. It is such an honor to be included in this group of women that I looked up to over the years and had as mentors, and those that definitely paved the way. It's a humbling experience for me to be included in this group. I recently had the opportunity to meet Lynne and Cheri, and their special qualities came through immediately. I am so looking forward to their presentations today. I'll be the first to tell you that I come to this place of honor from a place of privilege. Not that I haven't had to face my own challenges of adversity and bias, and haven't had to find my own way by digging deep. But I'm privileged because during this whole time, I've had tremendous support from my family, our phenomenal staff, and past and present leadership at our firm. I've also had the benefit of a wealth of mentors and colleagues, clients, friends. These are special people that have been exceptional leadership role models for me and trusted advisors in dark moments as well as light. My career definitely fits in the category of the long and winding journey, and I thought I'd share a few stories with you in that regard today. Our firm is celebrating our 50th anniversary this year, and over that time, we have carefully cultivated a reputation for excellent design and clients that are so happy with our work, they return to us for their next project. But I have to say, I truly believe the secret of our success lies in our firm culture, something that has been truly beneficial for me over my 35-year tenure here. We have strategically decided to stay around 20 people. And this is so we're large enough to take on complex projects, but perhaps more importantly, we're small enough to cultivate our collaborative studio environment. Our team includes a rich tapestry of individuals with varied backgrounds, interests, talents, and professional motivations. And our efforts have been to draw out the best in each of those individuals as we as a group work to find the most successful approach for each project. I'm particularly proud of the fact that we have been hovering right around 50% women staff the past few years. A priority for us has been to develop an equitable pay structure and to find a way to consider meaningful personal lives for our staff while they're contributing to our success. One silver lining in our virtual meeting today is that my mother, who is almost 95, is able to join us. She would be the first to tell you that as a young child, I was shy, another nice photograph, reserved, and had a very narrow comfort zone. And so when I tell her about special honors like today, thinking back to me as that young person, she often reacts by saying, "How did that happen?" And she and I have an inside joke because I typically respond by saying, "Deviled eggs, Mom." And we have a good laugh because that brings back memories of when I was 9 or 10 years old, involved with a 4-H group. And we were required to do a demonstration, not only in front of our club members, but in front of the parents and judges. And so as I've described my personality at that time, you can imagine I greeted this idea with abject fear. But I buckled down and I decided I would demonstrate how to make deviled eggs. And I practiced and I practiced and I practiced. And the demonstration day finally came, and my mother tells the story of the vision of me entering that door. My small frame, my hands shaking, carrying my little tray of ingredients, and all of the color completely drained from my face. But somehow I put one foot in front of the other and got up to that demonstration table and managed to get through it. And as I reflect on this experience now, it was pivotal because I learned that if I stepped outside of that comfort zone and faced my fears, it opened doors to a much broader world. And when I reflect on my own architectural career, it really is a string of perhaps more sophisticated deviled egg experiences. And I thought I'd share one with you today. About 15 years ago, when I was mid-career in our firm, Dick Lamoureux and Mike Pagano approached me about becoming a board of trustee member at Mechanics Hall. Now, Mechanics Hall is an architectural treasure in Worcester. Prior to the Civil War, it was designed and constructed as a community center to inspire the mechanics to strive to do their absolute best. And so the idea of being a part of this was attractive to me at first, but my feelings soon dissolved to trepidation. I realized I'd be sitting at the table with some of the most influential business and community leaders in our area. And I wondered, what would I have to offer? Yet I decided to give it a shot. And I soon learned that my voice was of value. My passion for architecture and preservation, my interest in construction and strategic thinking came through. And eventually the trustees came to respect my ideas enough to elect me to become president of the board. And we upended the whole meeting system because we realized at that time that we needed to think strategically about how that industrial era mission could be relevant to our 21st century community. And so today, as I have the chance to talk with women in my profession, I'm most often impressed with how talented they are. But I sense that a lack of self-confidence is holding them back. As designers in leadership positions, we need to inspire these women to find their passion, use their innate creativity to overcome their fears, and imagine new models. If we're going to make a difference with big issues like social equity and climate concerns, we all need to step out boldly from our comfort zone. As parents, colleagues, citizens, we have so much to offer. Thank you for this tremendous honor today.
Congratulations, Katie. That was absolutely beautiful. And a very, very special welcome to your mom. That really just warms my heart. And I'm so glad that you could join us today. So thank you. That was fabulous. Lynne Deninger, next up. I'd now like to invite jurors Luciana Birdie, who is a 2019 awardee, and Emily Grandstaff Rice, also a 2019 awardee, to present our next award. We're so happy that Luciana and Emily are here to present the award to Lynne Deninger. So please welcome Luciana and Emily.
Hi, hello, good afternoon. Yes, it is afternoon. I'm very happy to be here and to be able to just give a couple of notes about Lynne's jury notes. So the jury appreciated the cohesive submission because it told the story of her career and life contribution to a variety of perspectives. Lynne's fierce leadership, her push for diversity and inclusion in her firm, her involvement in student life, and the voice of those she has impacted came through very strongly. I'm now leaving up to Emily to make a larger introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Luciana. So if you want to know 3 things about Lynne Deninger, she really cares about making a difference. She cares about having a purpose, and she will tell it to you straight. That's one of the things that I adore about Lynne. I'm telling you, I can have a problem that it seems like it's the weight of the world, and Lynne will just say, Emily, let's just break this down. It's okay. It's not a big deal. I have been fortunate to be able to rely on Lynne for, it's interesting when you don't work with people directly, you don't have the benefit of that daily interaction. But when I do have the ability to connect with Lynne, it always leaves me with a sense of assurance, like she's got it covered. And at the end of the day, she would do anything for you. When I think about the 4 items that this award celebrates, position, product, process, and person, Lynne is extraordinary in all of those realms. She's at the top of her game in higher education practice, board of directors of Canon. She also is a true voice for student success on campuses. That is sort of what we all know Lynne as excelling in. But what is also important, frankly, is her voice for a more inclusive profession and community stewardship. She was at the front lines of sustainability before many of us were even talking about it. I consider Lynne an advocate, a mentor, a fearless leader. Her body of work speaks for itself, but to say that frankly, doesn't capture who she truly is. Her voice is her superpower. And please, please welcome me in watching the video of Lynne receiving this and hearing what she has to say. Thank you.
Lynne Deninger, we're so honored to present you with the Boston Society of Architects Women in Design Award of Excellence 2020. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Really wonderful. Champagne to celebrate. To celebrate.
I, like Katie, am somewhat overwhelmed. I think, like many of us in the profession, we kind of have our head down a lot, sort of doing the work and moving forward, but not necessarily looking up and really thinking about how we got here. So this has been a challenge, but I put on my planning hat and said if I were to talk about the long and winding road, I would cut it into 4 pieces, sort of where I started, taking us all the way to what's next. So I started at the beginning. My long and winding road is probably too long and winding. But one of the things I thought I would share to start off with is I just recently read a book by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, My Own Words, and she started off with this quote that I thought was so fitting for me, because I actually have an awesome mom who told me from day one, you can do whatever you want, you can go wherever you want, you can be the person you want to be. And I am blessed to have had that and still have it. Now it's probably a little different in the advice I get, but it's great. And I always felt raised with 2 brothers that I was equal to and could step right in and do as I pleased at some level. I also had an uncle who was an art and history professor at Suffolk University, who traveled quite a bit throughout my childhood, shared his work, shared his slide decks, talked about what was sort of outside the world that I grew up in, and gave me my first set of pastels, charcoals, sketchbooks, etc. And so I spent much of my childhood really drawing and doing photography and sketching all over the place, and really saw myself somewhat in his path, you know, going to art school and being a fine artist. That took me to RISD. And in that path, I was exposed to so much more in terms of art and architecture, and really began to see beyond sort of my sketchbook and what a difference art and architecture and other forms of creative thinking can bring to the world. Critical thinking, design thinking, really being a dynamic part of what I could do in society. And in addition to that, which I don't know at the time I understood that this would impact me long-term in my life, but I was super involved in student activities. I spent a lot of time in student affairs. I was very engaged in all sort of activities on campus at RISD, actually working my way through student government to president. That allowed me to interact with a lot of very senior people within the college, and gave me a real feeling for what it means to connect students to place and students to their institution, and community building and getting people to row in the same direction, and what those collaborations can really do for students in their personal growth, and how they take that forward into their profession. I clearly ended up in architecture. I think my takeaway there was not just architecture from a design perspective, although that was you know, extremely important in my everyday world on campus, but really thinking about how place makes a difference, and the difference that architecture and creating beautiful spaces means to people in all the different ways that you can imagine, and the different typologies that exist in architecture. And I really tried to do all different projects while I was in school. When I got out, I had some really amazing mentors. I would say kudos to Dave Galler, who gave me my first job out of school. It was a very tiny office, but in that office, I made some of the best friends of my life that you see here, Glenn Kurth and his wife, Janine, and Shoping, Chin, and David, lifelong friends, great mentors. The amazing thing I would take forward from that very first job was there was only 6 of us in the office, and Shoping was the design principal and a very strong voice in the office. And I thought, hey, this is awesome. You know, a strong woman leading design and conversation in architecture. I thought every firm had that. It was just incredible for me to work within that, in that setting. It did not exist in some of the other firms I went to, having a strong female design voice in the office, but I always had that in my heart moving forward. And honestly, I think it gave me the strength to be the person I am in all the different firms I've worked with. The other thing I would share with my mentors is some of them were my direct supervisors, some of them were close friends, some of them were clients, collaborators, consultants. In the end, I think always taking away the positives of those conversations was really important. Sometimes a mentor who displays thoughts or behaviors that you feel you can't bring into yourself and make part of you moving forward is as important as the positive things you see in people. I think you have to draw from everyone what can make you a stronger and better person, architect, leader moving forward. The last role I had before I came to Canon Design was at Sasaki, where Gina and others that are on this call I worked with quite closely. From Alan Resnick, I would say that was sort of the leap point where I really got engaged in institutional planning, design, and working with student affairs and student life. It was really instrumental, I think, in my growth as an architect there, learning how to lead teams and clients, and really develop my passion for student life. Taking that forward, I would say that my greatest joys have really been designing spaces, places, buildings, large or small, that really allow students, faculty, staff to come together and really grow as people, creating spaces that support community and equity on our college and university campuses, because that's really our future, our collective future, growing strong students and having them move out into our future leaders in the community. Designing places for equity and inclusion, bringing people of various abilities together to learn and grow together as students and future leaders. And really creating places of excitement where people can see their personal growth, where they belong as a student, where they can grow academically and personally. And those types of spaces are the types of places that I think that people have an affinity for and move towards. And this particular project I share because one of the goals was really to make engineering and entrepreneurship visible and exciting for folks across campus. And they've seen an incredible increase in gender diversity and cultural diversity on campus because of this building in the engineering and entrepreneurial world. It's those types of nuggets that for me are quite gratifying to feel like I'm creating places that are really making a difference in people's lives out there. So what's next? I would say throughout all that, and Judy will laugh at this, but you know, she always pokes me and says, you know, while you're doing all that, you also raised 3 Eagle Scouts. They take a lot of time and attention raising children, as many of you probably know. I have now come really close to launching most of them. And so the time I have on my hands is actually awesome. I'm a little hampered by COVID, but I'm looking forward to getting back out there. I wanted to close this last piece of my journey by sharing another quote that I actually pulled out of the RGB book. I think it's really powerful. The first step is to become visible to others and then put on an impressive show as society sees what women can do. As women see what women can do, there will be more women out there doing things and we will be all better off for it. I think that is incredibly powerful. And for me, it really sets the stage for what's next, which is I feel now that I have some more time, I can write more. I can share more. I can mentor more folks. I can make myself more available and more engaged with folks around me, participate more, get more involved in a variety of opportunities that exist in my backyard, as well as nationally, because I do not take lightly this incredibly gifted and inspiring group of women, especially Cheri and Katie, whom I shared today with. But looking back at this group of women and saying, you know, I know most of them. I have looked up to most of them. I call many of them friends. And I hope that down the path, when we think about this conversation 20 years from now, that I will have been able to look at that future group and hope that I've helped some of them along the way to achieve their goals, as many of these women have helped me achieve mine. So that's it. Thanks so much. Thanks for the intros, and this has been a really special event. Thanks so much.
Congratulations, Lynn. And that was just so inspiring. And I have to say, one of the sort of silver linings, if you will, of doing this way, and the fact that Janelle and I had the opportunity to go and meet each of you in person, was the conversations that we had. And it's not something that usually happens at this event. And Lynn, I did not know you before that day. And I could have stayed and talked to you all day. You were inspiring me that day, and it was just fabulous. So I just, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, and now on to Cheri Ruane. So I'd now like to introduce and invite jurors Vivian Lee, 2015 awardee, and Gina Ford, 2019 awardee, to present our next award. We're thrilled that Vivian and Gina are here to present the award to Cheri Ruane. So please welcome Vivian Lee and Gina Ford.
You know, when you have a chance to meet an incoming freshman class of your alma mater, and you think to yourself, I would never get into that college today. I felt that way as a juror and as a past recipient. I mean, the submissions that we got this year were incredible. And as you've heard, the award recipients today are exceptional leaders. So I want to say that as a juror. So Cheri is a landscape architect who feels strongly about engaging the community in a creative and collaborative process. The jury noted that Cheri's submission was very well presented and clearly illustrated her impact in community engagement. Those of us on the jury were impressed with the genuine involvement of diverse constituencies in creating spaces where everyone felt welcome, whether it was the incorporation of universal design play structures in the Thomas M. Menino Park for children of all abilities, or the involvement of bilingual liaisons in the planning of open spaces in multicultural communities, or the unique public engagement strategy for Peddix Island in the midst of Boston Harbor. Cheri's passion for community spaces was consistently illustrated throughout her professional career and leadership roles, and she is a model of how best to listen closely to stakeholders of all backgrounds, whether community residents or climate activists. Let me now turn it over to Gina Ford, who will introduce Cheri and her work.
Thank you, Vivian. As a professional rainmaker, exuberant, dynamic, doer, energized, determined, ballsy, kick-ass, titan. And as a person, admirable, compassionate, adventurous, witty, boundless, driven, genuine, warm. That's the thing with Cheri Ruane, the Vice President and Landscape Architecture Practice Leader at Weston and Sampson here in Boston. When you ask her friends and colleagues, as I did for this introduction, you get a really unusual portrait of a woman that is both teddy bear and Viking, part fearsome competitor, part motivational speaker. She's remarkably the team's MVP while also being its coach. Case in point, I asked, what goes through your mind when Cheri bests you? Because if you guys know Cheri, it happens a lot. It happens to me a lot. One friend said, anytime she steps up to the mic or to the plate, everyone in the backfield takes a few steps back and prepares for what's about to rain down. Damn, it must feel good to be that gangster. But at the same time, she's not driven by solo success and ego. One friend noted, if you get in her way, rather than running you over, she will pick you up and carry you with her. No one is ever left behind. This duality was consistent in all the conversations. I said, where does Cheri get her boundless energy? One friend said, I think Cheri's inner voice is always asking, why is patience a virtue? Why can't hurry the F up be a virtue? While another friend said, her heart is so massive, her need to be decent and caring fires her engines endlessly. On the warrior side, Cheri's accomplishments are many, and all have a certain only Cheri could pull this off kind of swagger. For instance, did you know she won the head of the Charles while a graduate student at Harvard and pinned her medal up on her board in place of her drawings at her final review? Did you hear that she created a very cool, very feminist like a girl industry, making beautiful masks that are both protection and protest? Can you imagine she took a site visit, the whole idea of a site visit, to a whole new level by going to Peddix Island and staying overnight in one of its yurts? And lastly, when we tragically lost our BSLA president unexpectedly, Cheri took on a second term unexpectedly with no questions asked, no whining, no moaning. She just got the job done. And finally, on the motivational speaker side, one friend shared, she always says yes. Yes to waking up at ungodly earthly hours to row. Yes to protecting her neighbors with homemade masks. Yes to saving a life with her donated kidney. Yeah, guys, I'm telling you, she's also an organ donor. Yes to supporting the ideas of younger professionals. Yes to leading our profession. And one said, she is a constant source of inspiration in absolutely every facet of my life, as a parent, as an athlete, as a landscape architect, and an advocate. Anytime I might feel tired, I can look to Cheri and know there's absolutely another level to aspire to. It's my pleasure to introduce my good friend, the gloriously victorious and endlessly generous Cheri Ruane. But first, the in-person award reception.
Cheri Ruane, we are so excited to honor you with the Boston Society of Architects 2020 Women in Design Award of Excellence. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. Thank you.
Here's a little something to celebrate for you too.
I'm fine. Thank you so much. I'm really glad that we had to watch that little video so that I could compose myself after Gina and Vivian's remarks. So we did not plan this, but actually Gina's intro really feeds well into this presentation. So this was yet again another mind meld. So Gina, first and foremost, there are days that in the best ways, I hate her. I'm so competitive and I'm like, ooh, she just did it again, right? She did something and she drives me. Did I think I was going to be using a Matthew McConaughey quote in this presentation? No, I did not. And yet here we are. So there's a few things, right? About 3 to my count that I need in each day. One, I need something to look up to, another, something to look forward to, and another is someone who checks. And Gina, I have to say, now you got me all like worked up. I have to say, I have loved chasing you, and you have made me a better landscape architect. You've made me a better leader. You've made me a better mom. And I just really appreciate all that you do for me and hope that I can return the favor by even half. So thank you. There are a few other people I do need to thank. Ted Tolukian, who nominated me. I first learned about Ted because people kept confusing us because we're physically identical. He's about 5'7" and Greek, and I'm 6'1" and Irish, so you can see that it's easy to mix us up. But then we started teaming on things, and now we're just great collaborators. So he's a consultant, he's a client, and he's a friend, and I really appreciate him. Second is my dad, who has also joined us today under the super sneaky code name Grandpa. He loves a good ceremony, especially when his favorite daughter is being recognized. That's a running joke. Whoever's in the room is the favorite. So he and my mom have always supported me, right? Awkward Jersey girl with big hair who wants to play ice hockey with boys. You betcha. How about, I'm thinking about a design as a college major. Well, they found a course on interior design at the Fashion Institute of Technology, and he schlepped me in there every Sunday for this class for weeks and weeks. Interiors didn't stick, but design did. Also, during these journeys into the big city, I picked up some really important life skills, like how to haggle with scalpers for tickets to the Rangers game. That's worth noting, and I'm happy to share with you after in the network. Okay. So I find out I won. I'm super honored. And I immediately Google, I want to write an awesome acceptance speech. So things pop right up. So this guy just won an award. He looks miserable. I immediately went to the next article. This one had good advice, but clearly has been listening to me because I was talking about Christmas shopping for my 15-year-old son, and all of a sudden Slam magazine subscription pops up. So please know Google is always listening. And also Cooper is getting subscription to Slam magazine. So information you might find useful from this search. What is your message? Give it a title. Be truly grateful, which I want to make sure you guys understand I am. This class is amazing. Lynne and Katie, we had an awesome Zoom call one night. It was the end of the day. It was literally like landing the space shuttle. Somehow all of our schedules lined up, and we had this awesome conversation where I just was reminded how rich of a network the BSA Women in Design group is, and that is a gift. Talk like a real person, no problem. Share something about yourself that your audience does not know. Now, after Gina's intro, I only have one thing left. That's fine. Be a tad unpredictable, and then of course, link your remarks back to the organization. So this is just, I'm just offering some helpful hints here. And do it in 10 minutes or less because, you know, we don't have all day. So I call this Career Learnings, the Ruane edition, because none of us got here alone. And when I thought about this presentation, I immediately started pulling together slides of my work. And then I was like, wait a minute, what is my message? I don't think today is about my work, to be perfectly honest with you. And Gina knows I love to win. And when you're competing with Lynne and Katie, don't go to the work. So number one, own your brand. You should do this every once in a while. You should Google yourself. It's a little bit horrifying, but it's worth doing because this is what's out there about you. So this is not modified. This is just a screenshot. What do I take away from this? Time to get a new headshot. Completely overused. I talk with my hands. I put up with small children. And I've met Mayor Walsh, right? Like these are things that come up. Also, bottom right, I got the Women in Design Award. I was so excited that that made it on there. But I think it's important to really be intentional about what you put out in the world. So articles that come up, things that resonate, own that in a way that you are proud of, right? And as most of us on this call are fortunate enough to not have had social media in our crazy teenage years. And so it's not recorded in perpetuity in some server farm somewhere, but that's not the case anymore. And that's a message that I'm trying to relay to my children who don't think I know anything. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. None of us on this call, none of us in this world get here alone. So these are just some of the faces of people that have influenced and supported me. Felice actually hired me as a landscape architect when I was just starting out and trying to develop business, and it was amazing, and I am still grateful. Justine Liff used to be the commissioner at the Boston Parks Department. Lynn Wolf, Fran Beatty, that woman is a force. She was a very small package, but man, she was a force. You know, all of these women have offered insights and they are the shoulders upon which I stand. I'd also offer that my mom, who we lost a couple years ago, also offered a lot of great insight. And not only what I wanted to be, but almost more importantly, what I didn't want to be. Because if you're not careful, inertia takes you in places that you might not be happy where you end up. And just a note that Rosa Parks owned her space so that Ruby Bridges could walk to school, so that Kamala Harris could run for vice president. And that is true across, that is true for me as a landscape architect, and that is true for anyone, any woman that you see in power. And I think it's important that we continue to recognize that. So on hustle, I'm a big believer. Again, this goes back to my dad. There was no like laying around on Saturdays when you really just wanted to watch the Smurfs. It's beautiful out, get outside. There was always this urgency around it, and it became embedded in me. And it's only taken me 14 years of therapy to finally realize that it's okay to rest, but it was worth it, Dad. So the point is here, you do or you do not, to quote Yoda. There's no try, right? You do it or you don't. And also, I think people get paralyzed by the idea that they have to make the right decision. So when I was trying to choose a graduate school, it was UW in Seattle, it was UCal Berkeley, it was the GSD, and it was weeks of torment. What do I do? And then finally it dawned on me, there's no bad decision here, right? Pick it, own it, and make it yours. That can be applied to everything. You know, I'm not saying that the grad school choice is any sort of duress. I was fortunate and I was heading to the next stage of my life, but it applies even today. Deep fry the turkey or roast it. Just pick it and own it and make it amazing. We deep fried it. That's right. Stop trying to balance things. The work-life balance, that phrase, I hate it. I hate it so much because it diametrically opposes life and work. It's not, it's just life. It's all life. So this is actually, this form, Jane Park's form, she took that from Nadine Worth, Gina Ford, Cynthia Smith, and I on the golf course this past summer. True story. That's exactly what we all looked like when we were playing golf. But when she thinks about work-life balance, She does not imagine it as a day where everything is parsed out in perfect packages. She really looks at it over really a much bigger spectrum. And I think this is the key part. Make time for the people and the experiences that you value. That's clutch. So if you do what you love, which I think most of us do, then you end up in a really great spot. The secret to having it all is realizing that you already do. You do. You really do. You do not need to have kids. I just want to state that up front. Not a lot of people say that, but you should know that that's true. You do not need to have kids. They are a lot of work, as Lynne noted. I think the highs are higher. I think the lows are lower. I think the net is a gain, but there are some hard times. And I think for a very long time, I was pushing and pushing and pushing because I wanted to have it all. And then you get to the point where you're near collapse. And I think this quote resonates with me in ways that when things get hard, taking a deep breath and thinking this through really is awesome. So this is not to be gratuitous. The point here is that I really did work hard at these things, rowing and hockey. And as you can tell from my professional sports career, it has really been not financially rewarding at all, but it was fun. But what it takes to get to those places, and this is an embarrassing photo, but I decided I'm going to be truly authentic with everybody today, is a lot of really, really early mornings. So that sunset over Boston, that was beautiful. That was 40 days of straight practices training for the head of the Charles. And that was last year. This isn't like, oh, she was in her 20s. No, I was 46. So you ask yourself, girl, what are you doing? And sometimes I have to say, I don't really know. But I love what I realized what I loved about all this was competing with these other women. Like we were lifting each other up in ways that you just can't get it anywhere else. So I encourage you all, don't be chained to your desk and your computer. Find ways to commune with other women in ways that isn't just architecture. And then invite me, because I would probably like to come. So this has become more nuanced as my life has evolved and I've aged. If it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no. It used to be so easy, right? Now it's like, it's a maybe yes, and it wouldn't be so bad. And sometimes you have to do those things. But it's a really good gut check. You know, do you want to do this? I do say yes a lot, but I've actually been practicing saying no. And I think it's been a really important moment in my life to be able to own with confidence, let go of the FOMO, and know that it's okay to say no, and put yourself higher on your to-do list. You should be right up there. You should be in the top 3, right? The top 2 for me are Cooper and Casey, but then it's me. So Gina really did just blow the whole thing, except I'm going to share with you a backstory that not very many people know. So I love this quote. I actually learned about it from Brené Brown. And if you haven't read her book, Daring Greatly, that is absolutely worth your time. But the gist of the Roosevelt quote is that you're going to fail in life. And when you do, it's not the critics who count. It's not the people who call you out for it. It's not the people that shame you for it. They don't count. It's you that counts. It's you. You're in the arena. You are the one that is daring greatly. So it's not that I dared greatly to give a kidney. That was actually really easy, and I encourage you to do it. It's like 3 weeks off. You have a friend for life, and it was awesome. What people don't know is at this time, my husband and I were actually separating, and I didn't want to talk about it, and I didn't want anyone to know because I was embarrassed, and I was going through this really super hard time. I also was being sexually harassed at this time, but I didn't want anyone to know that either. So it was this really hard time. But what pulled me through this was going towards the light. And that is something that Gina often says, and it's something that really resonated with me, is that you focus on the good, you will get through the bad. So fast forward now 3.5 years, Ellis, my recipient, super healthy, lefty, that's what we named my kidney, is doing awesome. My husband and I are still separated. Our kids stay in the house and we switch back and forth. It's called bird's nest custody. Thought I invented it, was ready to write a book. Turns out somebody else thought of it first. Slightly disappointed, but sticking with it. The kids were first, right? I really had to stop and say, what is the biggest priority here? Everything else will fall into place. So I share this with you because I think it's important that we as women share the stories that maybe hurt, or maybe are a little bit embarrassing, or maybe you think is gonna, change somebody's opinion about you, because we all go through hard things and we're in it together. So I offer that. In closing, I really want to share my gratitude to Felice and to Janelle. You guys did such an amazing job. I'm drinking the champagne this weekend. I saved it until the official award. Really, really honored. I can't help but tear up at that poster you guys put together with all the black and white images, and then us on the end. Like that is moving. And I'm proud to be a part of that. And I just want to say thanks. Really appreciate it.
Cheri, wow. I really wish we were able to have the audio on, because I'm sure everybody is laughing through the whole thing and crying. You've got me laughing and crying. That was really so, just so beautiful. And thank you for sharing and inspiring us to share, and just really am overwhelmed. So beautiful. How inspiring are all of these women, that all three of you, phenomenal. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, all of you, for joining us. Thank you to our sponsors, our committee, our jurors, and I'll turn it over to Janelle for a minute here.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. This was amazing. When we pause to reflect on past winners, we are inspired by the path these women have opened for others, and all three of you touch on this. So please really think about those women who have mentored you, have inspired new generations, and have made significant contributions in their line of work. And please consider nominating them for 2021.